I just have the workers, I'm the acting director of ParksandRec and city manager for all country. I moved back to about 2:30 last so when we started, before we start, because most of the day talking about whether or not we can about these, and I think we can do the next meeting. But for right now, we're going to start with some announcements. The first meeting that the new ParksandRec director will start on November 5th. And basically, it's very simple. Gaming comes to is $8 where they recommend. I'm there for providers to we work with a master plan, it's what the diversity inclusion task force, integral academic community building partnerships with what was this including the Washington Center, and it's a movie night, so they're young association. Prior to that day was with the city of Fremont. He was born and raised in Fremont. Spent almost 20 years over in Fremont working for the recreation. So he managed their Central Park. And then worked on projects like Liberty Fields and there's really like so he comes to you with a lot of experience in recreation with county living. He is a high energy person. He is out of edge part of mind. He'll be out on the reason that and I think this is our so to be social where he starts. So I do want to show you who he was and he's happened. He did it to each other. So he did that. Very the next thing I want to do is spend a little bit of time talking about three announcements. One is one of them is that in the last couple of months, we're experiencing an increase in ambulance in our students and our disabilities. So that, for example, at Orford Park, the children success about place and should approve that and work probably into be that. Two programs that essential part there's issues and the most so just want to let you know we are working with our controls. We remember that one of the people asked was the restarting part controls and that they learned that in July on the start. So we are working with them and they do have a good staffing, but what I would encourage you all is if you see people doing this in the environment and office, please let us know. Part of my second is whatever you feel that we need to better people on the course this morning. And it is the reason why we need that. When we pull full-time staff to go do those kinds of things that you work in to and this is not happening. We have a number of agencies right now. So every single hour we have 10 vacancies on our side just this week long. Applications and so our ability to respond to these kinds of calls takes away the ability to find students. So that affects you all as well as your provider. So just be very with 0 resident and 0 in charge to fill out to establish challenging. They're just real impact on our ability to respond to so the next thing I want to talk about is the equilibrium. We designated that with 49 degrees. And so that is not safe for anyone to go out there on the field. So we're working with our emergency operations for people to come up with a policy so that everything will know in advance when the fields are open and when we have to close them. Nobody wants to close fields, but for everybody's safety, we do think that at 145 degrees, no one should be out there on the fields. It's not good for the fields, it's not good for the athletes. So just wanted to let you know that we are working through that. And then I did get a question in the emails. We had sent out some questions, and then the question became, well, one of the things we were supposed to talk about was field fees. When are we doing that? And so I just wanted to respond to that.
When we sent out the announcement for this meeting, we indicated that we would be talking about that on October 23rd. So that's the date that we're going to talk about fees. We have to talk about Wade Brummal because one of the decisions that you all need to make is whether or not you wanted to recommend field fees be an eligible expense in Wade Brummal. If not, then that gets carried out, right? And then we talk about fees in a different scenario. If you wanted it here, then it kind of shifts it a little bit differently. But the feedback that we got was you did not want it. That's what we heard last time. So I just want to talk about that a little bit today too.
So that meeting should be on the 24th.
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 That's what
Looks like 23 to me.
in the email, I just reading what I sent, it says the 20th.
Okay, 24th. So I apologize. We'll correct that.
When you mention the fees, it means the city fees.
Yes.
Nonprofit or city fees for everybody that uses the fields.
For everybody who use sports field fees, but they've also asked us to look at what's the impact for all fees related to use sports.
Because there's a hold on the fees until
Correct.
2025, correct?
Not a hold. So they were waived until the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
Right? We're supposed to go back. So it's a little bit different, right? So they were waived until that point, and then we're supposed to come back with a recommendation. Now, what we had said in January is that as staff, we were not going to be recommending, let me go back. In the city of Santa Clara, we do a 2-year budget, right? So 1 year is operating, 1 year is capital. This next year is the operating budget. This would normally be the time that we would talk about an increase in fees. We have said as staff, we are not going to recommend a fee increase in the operating budget for 2025. Right? So does that answer your question?
It
You're
did.
still
So the
looking at
fees
it.
that were waived till the end of the year, was that 150,000?
It was about 114,000, I think.
Just under 115, right?
Yeah.
115.
Yeah.
Based off of district.
But again, it's not paused. There was no fees charged
Correct.
until we go back to council.
Right.
We'll be back.
No.
Yeah, you will not be
I
back
know
charged.
that. It's just,
Yes.
it's not being charged, so what I'm saying, if there's a pause, and if you're not being charged today, that's the way I look at it.
Correct.
And what I'm saying is then it goes back to the council. It would be the council in the following year, and it's their pro reports.
So we will go back to council with a recommendation based on the discussions here. Council take action. Our recommendation as staff is that there be no increase for the fiscal year that starts July 1 or through
Okay,
the next June,
okay.
right? That would be our recommendation. However, we do need to talk about what would be happening the following year, right? Because that would have been what, 2.5 years without any fee increases, and we'll have to reevaluate it. What the commitment was that in January of each year, we would talk about if there was going to be a fee proposed for the following July 1. So there'd always be a 6-month notice as to whether or not there would be a fee.
And so it's clear, what dates are you looking to go back to council with the recommendation?
It will depend, what we're hoping to get to council before the end of the calendar year. I don't know that it's going to be possible, right? You'll see in the PowerPoint.
Oh, wait, that's, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we're gonna talk about a working group, a smaller working group. Anyway, so,
Just a point, Dana was some staffing challenges. I live across the street from Maywood Park. Craig is the guy who's there normally. He's on vacation. And Dana lives kitty corners. Between the two of us, we've been now calling police to keep that down quite a bit. I've called many times where people are doing stuff late at night, and just it's me being not that guy, but that's my front yard. That's how I look at it. So also, we have a good relationship with Santa Clara Police, and as far as cleaning up, I've had a big party there last Sunday. It was a mess. I have never seen, I've lived there for 60 years, never seen a mess greater than this one group left. I cleaned up all I could, so when the guys came in, they didn't have that. And I think if we could just find some people like myself who are just looking at the park as being part of extension of their own house, it'd be a good thing. I don't have to wear a suit, hat, whatever, I just do it, so I think it's possible with more people like me and Dana in the city who look at parks as being part of their house.
yeah, and thank you for that, because that is a big deal. And I know Dana's for those, I think everybody knows who Dana is on the Park and Rec, he's the chair or former chair of the Park and Rec Commission. has been very active in terms of being out there and being proactive in calling PD and working with them and raising the issue around the alcohol that was out there, and those kinds of things. And so that's the kind of, and that's why I want to
And
make sure.
dogs off leashes, they're very good, very good.
And that's why I want to make sure that
Right.
the groups know these things that are going on, please, to let us know. If we can't be out, we're too small of a group right now. We can't be everywhere, so we're really relying on those of you who are out in the community that be our eyes and ears and let us know. And then if we can talk about volunteering and creating, working through our volunteer programs to get people like that.
Well, what I wanna do after November 5th is I wouldn't mind going to different parks and sitting in the booth saying, want to volunteer, and just can't sit there, somebody wants to come up to me, I can explain what I do at Maywood. And I guarantee you, there's somebody in each neighborhood who at least has some interest. And who knows?
And that might be a recommendation that can come out of this group about forming sort of a neighborhood cleanup.
Just,
group, right? So it's part of building a community.
concern, and again, you have to watch yourself, you don't wanna overstep your boundaries, but you wanna make sure they understand that there are eyes out there.
Well, we would want to work with the group, right? Because we want to
Absolutely.
make sure there's coverage, we want to make sure everybody's using, protective gear and the right things to make sure that you're kept safe, healthy and safe. So we want to work with you on developing a program. I know Derek, who runs our community garden, is in charge of our volunteers right now. We just hired a person, her name is Edie Mendoza, who's going to do a lot more of that kinds of stuff and working with communications and with groups. So we are looking at ways of how we do that. We do want, I met with Westside Little League about 3 weeks ago to talk about how we start to do our formalizing the MOU with them. We have a partnership with them that for whatever reason there hasn't been an MOU, and we want to talk about how we do that. And one of the things is they've talked about is wanting to do more. They have been historically doing volunteer work at the sites, and so how do we codify that and memorialize it and make sure that everybody's protected?
Well, I know what Tom does at Central Park with the council, but I tell you, there's a lot of people who are very interested in the city who want to help, and I think we just need to make it a possibility for them to do that. And there'll be people who come out and actually want to volunteer. And by the way, Cindy should be full-time. I like Cindy.
She's not ready.
Oh, Cindy did that.
Yeah.
No, she works hard.
She's excellent.
Well, Sunday, Cindy. Yeah, so again, just wanted to make sure you guys were aware, we are seeing an uptick in it. One of the things that you will also be seeing, which is why I put it on here, is we are going to be contracting out, because we have so many vacancies. We are going to be contracting out some services around opening and closing the restrooms. So you may see a little bit of a change there while we do that. It's an interim measure only until we can fill our vacancies, but we need that extra capacity, and we can hire a service to open and close restrooms. We can't hire a service to go do our landscaping or do the other work they have to do. So we're just trying to figure out how do we keep a level of service up in a way that makes sense and is responsive.
Is that a month-to-month contract or annual renewable?
Well, no, it'll have to be for a certain period, because we cannot do it once we fill our permanent positions. So those are the announcements I wanted to make, just to make sure everybody was aware of sort of what's going on. In particular, the heat. I did want to make sure that everybody understood why we're asking people to be off the fields. And it may impact how we've done things in the past. But just please know that we're doing it for everyone's safety. And that we're working with our emergency operations people to make sure that we do it in a way that's transparent and provides for everybody's safety. Okay, so for the next hour and 10 minutes, we'd like to talk about Wade Brummal. And so I do want to thank the Westside Little League and I think it's the aquatics folks, the SantaClaraCA Swim Club, who did respond to the questions that we had sent out. So we did get some feedback, but I did want to go through some questions here with you all today, so we can start to formulate our response to council. You'll see at the end of these questions, I am going to ask for, and it's a relatively small group today, so maybe it's just all of you guys. There are things that we're not going to be able to finish today, right? And we do want to continue to be able to get to council before the end of the year. So I'm going to ask for a smaller working group, volunteers to serve in a smaller working group to work on finalizing some of the details, and then we can bring it back to the larger group before we take it forward to Parks and Rec Commission. So that'll be one of the things that we have at the end of the meeting. So the first thing is, what the group thinks is the primary purpose of Wade Brummal. And so Wade Brummal historically, has been a fee charged to groups who have non-resident participants. And that money was intended to be for scholarships for Santa Clara residents who needed the money, who needed to have that support to be able to participate. So that's been one element. The other element has been grants to you all who put into Wade Brummal, and being allowed for equipment and supplies and those kinds of things. The feedback that we had received was that it's too cumbersome, it takes too long. The money for scholarships is not getting out to the people who really need it. We haven't, I think, do you remember how much the balance is? It's
113.
Right, 113 right now. $113,000 that should be out there, and we should have ideally like about 20,000, it's not a reserve, but we want that money to get out to kids, right? And so how do we do that? And so the first question is, really, do you want to keep the same original purpose of providing funds for scholarships and grants? Or do you want it just to be scholarships? Do you want it to be just grants? And then along with that is some of the other feedback we heard was that there were some groups who were serving Santa Clara residents, but didn't have non-residents, and so they weren't eligible to receive Wade Brummal. And I think the Lions is the group is the example, right? Everybody knows that they serve Santa Clara residents, but because they don't serve non-Santa Clara residents, they don't put into the fee, so they've not served and not been able to receive any grants, right? So these are the kinds of questions we want to work through with you.
That's not totally. That's the Santa Clara Alliance, they do serve non-residents, they just don't use city.
Oh, city facilities, okay, that's the part. Okay, thank you for that clarification. So they aren't eligible. So we need to understand, do you want to support that group? Right? Do you think the city should be supporting them or not? Or should it just simply be those people paying to the fund? So first question, let's stick to the first question first. What do you believe should be the primary purpose of Wade Brummal?
Kids play. I don't want someone sitting home who can't afford to play and not play. So that's number one. I want kids on the field. I don't know if there's probably number two, but number one to me would be that. You know, I don't want anyone who wants to play not play.
Scholarships and grants.
I agree with. I agree. Get kids on the field, especially those who can.
So I'm hearing three saying scholarships are the highest priority.
Scholarship high priority. And just to be clear, it's not Santa Clara residents, it's children who go to Santa Clara Unified School Districts. Are, it's not just Santa Clara kids. So if they
Right.
are not Santa Clara residents, but they go to Santa Clara Unified School District, then they're eligible. So it's not just,
Setting people with the same go to vote center.
yeah, as long as that's the way it was originally written.
So then, the question really for you all today is should, from that part, it's the other part, but, with respect to the field reservation. Should there be an eligible expense under the Wade law?
I don't know, kind of 50-50 toss up. Because if you got Santa Clara Palace about to go bankrupt. And we gotta pay $15,000 in fees. Which is normal for us, for our softball and soccer programs. Then. Why couldn't we use it when we have $115,000 in there?
I think Linda suggested this in her email, having a priority schedule in place where it's like, first priority is making sure there's enough kids with scholarship. If there's a leftover fund, if we can pay it to be, honestly, that lowers the cost. All of it, we can keep all of our organization fees down, and that helps people that are not extreme cases that need to be funded. But it helps kids who are, borderline, maybe they don't perfectly qualify, but if our costs are down, we're allowing for kids to get priority system
My initial no was based on watching what happened to that fund in the last few months I was on the Parks and Rec Commission. Was it being used to go to Wilcox High School for baseballs, was going to other programs, you had paid a dime into it, they're paying their other equipment and everything else. Cause they had a lot of money, okay, I get that, but that's not how it was set up, the way Brummal scholarship and Mike was on the board of Keno, kind of, we all came together. The no is about kids, but we have extra money, so let's support the programs and support Santa Clara, and if we do have situations like that. I'm all for it, I just don't, I voted no on that, and they said they want to give $1,500 to Wilcox High School for baseball to help. Really? No.
One of the things I want people to keep in mind is, yes, at this time we have that overabundance of money for that fund typically on a normal basis, but only be collecting about $30,000 to $35,000. So we really should be in a mindset of every year, we're only gonna have this amount, we're not always gonna have $150,000. And honestly, I just submitted 3 more pretty significant, so that 113 is gonna be a lot lower. So, yes, right now, today we have that, but moving forward, that balance is always gonna be in that $30,000 range.
And that's what it should be, and that should be how, we were doing use money for student center, we were using money for all kinds of weird stuff. Which, okay, it's an exception, but unfortunately exception, become a rule, but they not checked, I just wanna make sure we go back to what was the number way about and work on that.
So you all know this community more better than I do. If assuming it's $30,000 a year, is there not $30,000 worth of scholarships being given out?
That was my question, what's the average?
It's $80 a year, isn't it?
What I heard from people who work on that side of the table, a lot of people don't even know that, it's just, it's an ignorance factor, they just don't know it's nice available, so I actually full family said, I think that's for this, they go, oh, okay, no. So we just gotta do a better job of publicizing it, and I think if we do that, then we can put proper speed bumps to make sure the money goes to the right people. But right now, I just think there's a genuine ignorance of them not knowing that there's actually available funds.
So one of the things that, in just looking at the history of who's received the grants, it's the same groups who receive it year in and year out. And there aren't any other groups that have money. And so one of the questions that makes in my mind is how do we ensure there's equity across all sports? How do we ensure that there's equity across different opportunities for people to get to receive the money? Should there be a cap on how much any one organization can get, right? Should we say that there's a cap on how much anyone, that we're gonna say, we're gonna allocate X percentage for baseball and X percentage for football, and X, do you wanna go that way? How do we ensure that there's equity and availability to all of the groups in Santa Clara?
I really think you get a group of 4 or 5 minds together in this private conversation, they can tackle that and bring back to you good points. I don't think today's gonna be functional that way, just because we've got so much to cover, but if you get 3 or 4 people in the room talking about it, I think you'll have plenty to work with and actually have good rails to work on. That's my belief.
I think for prioritizing scholarships, Mike has 20 scholarship kids and I have 5, who cares, like, we just want kids to play. And then after that, then we talk about how we equitably split stuff. I think if scholarships are the priority, everyone should be able to cover that.
100%.
So again, that goes to my point though, is that's 2 groups and you're here.
Yes.
Where are the other groups
Yeah,
and who are gonna wanna have money too? How do we make sure that they have availability of money? Does there need to be, no one group gets more than X dollars or a percentage of the dollars or how
I
that?
think 30 grand covers all of our groups, right?
Well, it covers, this
Scholarship.
is the point that you were, I think, making, that people don't know about it, right? Once people know that it's available, will all the groups have enough money to be able to offer?
We'll figure it out.
That's a good problem.
Well, that could be partially answered with your second question, is who's eligible to receive funds.
Well, here's the other question.
So
Has
Santa
the
Clara
fee
Unified
ever
School District
increased
should not
from
be.
$25? Has the fee ever been increased? If we saw a really great need, could we increase it from 25 to 30,000 for a commission? And maybe that would cover this extra.
I can see organizations matching.
Absolutely.
Donations, if we have a giant need, I could probably think of a soccer organization close by that would help out.
Absolutely. And we really do want to go back to the number one thing, and I just, again, it really upset me to see the money go to a public school. And we never paid down into it, and they got plenty of money, but yet we gave you $1,500 for this all for a trip. Okay, so I wanted folks to go back to what it was, and we'll figure it out from there. And if some groups get more money, some groups get less money. I think in the end, if we're all on the same page, I mean, everyone was invited here today. Okay, so some people made a time, remember, some people couldn't have work. You know, I'm unemployable at this point, so I mean, there's people who are here because they want to be here. So I think among the people who are participating, I think we can work it out. And I think the people who are not aware, once they are aware, will want to be joining in with us.
So, yes, and so as a city, we have an obligation to make sure that there's equity across the board, so we can't just delegate that authority to you.
No, that's why
So
we bring our ideas to you, and you would figure it out, but. My thing is, if they're not here, if there's a SantaClara-based martial arts group that's not here, and they were invited. Is it important to them? I mean,
So let's go back to what Angelique said,
Yeah.
that what she said was a really important thing, it was SantaClara groups that use our facilities, right? So. That's a pretty limited number of groups,
Yes.
right? So we could create that list of groups
yes,
and say, those are the groups that are eligible to receive a Brummal, right? And then create some kind of split or distribution based on those groups. Does that make sense?
and I think inside that, we can figure out if there's extra money or less money, and then we can then be giving more money away to other people. Or saying, hey, dude, you can't get that much money, we need some of that, we can work it out, but. Until we know what those records are, we're just giving the numbers, we don't know.
Sorry for my ignorance, how does the fund grow? Who gets it?
So anybody who has a non-resident participant pays $25 per participant into the fund. That's the money that goes.
From every organization that uses the facilities.
For registration.
Yeah, it's basically saying, okay, we're gonna serve non-residents, but to do that, you're gonna make sure that somebody.
Makes sense.
So do corporations, do you have any corporations that donate into this fund, or is this all?
It's
Do you
all
know if we
generated
ever
from-
ask corporations to do that, or does that go against anything?
It doesn't go against anything, we could do that, it's not been part of the process. So this process really has been designed for those organizations who want to use our facilities to serve non-residents.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay.
It's a way to ensure
So that our kids.
And it's a way to ensure that people who don't go to a Santa Clara Unified School District or live in the city of Santa Clara, help pay a little bit of fees to maintain our kids, because they're using that. And
I'm just looking at it.
they're definitely not covering the complete cost
Right.
at $25, but it's at least something.
It's a brilliant concept, no other city does it. It really is a brilliant thing.
But it does sit in the city's funds, and so typically would not be eligible for corporate matching, because corporate matching typically is with the 501c3. Yeah, so the money sits in the city's accounts.
That should be like a sports
Mm-hmm,
foundation.
mm-hmm. If it sat in a foundation, then it would be eligible for other fundraising opportunities.
So that was the other announcement I wanted to make and I forgot. So thank you. So we have a parks master plan process going on right now. Last week, some of you may have participated in some focus groups. We've had pop-up events at concerts, and last weekend we were outside Blooms and we were out over at the Diwali thing at Live Oak, and this weekend we'll be at a Parade of Champions. We really want people to participate and let us know what they like about our park system, what needs to be enhanced. And one of the things that has come up is about the idea of the foundation. And so wanting to set up a foundation, much like libraries have a foundation, right? And so that we can have those large corporate donations come through the city and have that relationship that libraries often have with their library foundation.
I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
I just spin this way more into nonprofit. We did donors. I think if you had a good demand, like we're running a deficit, getting someone to back it.
Okay, so what I've heard is primarily scholarships. That we'll get a list of all the different groups that currently use our fields who pay into Wade Brummal. Those are the only groups you wanna have be eligible for the program. Specifically, no school district programs, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, when I went to high school, you needed $1,500, you did pizza parties, you did things that get money, so I don't know. Or should we look at money? Right, so I don't wanna sound ignorant on taking away from schools, but I don't understand why 1,500 would take 1,500 when they already have.
They wanted to list money for these kids if they don't.
Oh, I know, so I would definitely get against that, then, I mean, it should go for this, not public schools.
Okay, so, we'll do that, we'll have a smaller group to talk about how do we equitably distribute and come up with a recommendation on how to ensure that everybody has something or has the ability to have something. And maybe it's if the date opens up and everybody applies at the same time. And then you put in your proposal and we'll see how the money goes forward, maybe there's a group that reviews it or something, but we'll come up with something else, but. So that's what I've heard so far. Okay, so then, in terms of what's eligible to spend, where do you want to go back? Go to, I think the numbers on this thing. No,
There's 7 on it. Oh, here it is. Oh, 7 is, the one we had was the next one with 7, but,
Oh, okay, I've got you can see on here.
6, you're right, 6.
So we talked about, you can see scholarships, then grants, no other students. That's what I'm hearing, or right, did I hear that?
That's what I heard, scholarships, grants, not facility fees.
Is that what I heard from the group?
Yes.
If there's one.
So what if there's funds in there and it starts building up too strong, you just let it build and grow and decide on something?
No, I think personally, when I look at, when you have rules and regulations, they are living documents. And if you see a trend over a year or two, then you adjust to compensate for that trend. If you're running out of money all the time, well, then maybe you don't get a full reimbursement back. Maybe you get 50% reimbursement back. If you've got an excess money, you get full reimbursement back and you can submit for a grant.
So that's a different concept of, the concept of a reimbursement is different. Than the grant, the scholarships, right? Because a reimbursement implies you're getting the money that you put in. That has not been part of Wade Brummal.
Okay, I might have used the wrong word and I apologize for that, but
Somebody else used it, so I just wanna make sure, is that the concept you guys were thinking about? Okay.
so my point is that these should be living documents that you adjust to your trends annually, semi-annually, whatever you decide.
So what I'm hearing out of that is a recommendation that comes when whatever we approve, there should be a recommendation that the policy be adopted every other year.
No, not a policy adoption, but
Well, because
an adjustment.
well, that's what I'm saying, it needs to be reviewed to see if there's any adjustments that need to be made.
You're gonna have a working
We
group.
get Mike and other people and just, he's one of the co-founders, yes, global view, how it started. I think I trust Mike kind of wants to go one way, 5 good reasons. So I just trust Mike, so.
Wow, you put your neck out on the limb.
No, I'm not.
And with respect to Mike, we'll say that there needs to be a process, we can look out at how that works, and because there might be other people who want to participate.
That's why I check the balances.
Exactly.
What's the difference between scholarship and grant?
So a scholarship is for the player fees, a grant is for like supplies and equipment and all that other stuff. So what I was hearing was that the focus really is, let's get kids to play, the money should go to kids to play.
Let's say you go buy new nets for Curtis. New goal, you could put in a grant to pay for reimbursement of those.
What we did, have done for years, is Santa Cruz Soccer, we've actually bought nets for new soccer park and for here, we've tried to give back, I'm sure you know that, we've tried to do that. Whatever the need is, you can count on us, Santa Cruz Soccer, to obviously help pick up some of those costs. So.
And looking at the last few years, the grants and the money that has come out of Wade Brummal has been higher on the equipment replacement, uniform reimbursement. Then on the scholarship side, I think it could go to your point where people don't know. I feel like we've said it to everybody, it's sometimes if people are choosing not to apply for the scholarships. But we're trying to change that,
I
but
think it goes to the top,
history
yeah,
is-
the top,
right.
people in charge are talking about it.
And that's where, if your priority is getting kids to play, then our strategy has to be about communicating that opportunity to everybody. Because I find it really hard to believe in a city of 150,000 people, that there aren't kids who need that money for scholarships to be able to play. So I just can't imagine this in an environment where there would be money available for grants or other things, because I think kids, I don't know what people are charging for soccer, anywhere when my daughter played, it was a lot of money for fees. So,
I had to tell them to ask what they want scholarships. I had to tell them, we asked for it.
and so one of our strategies coming out of the group should be, let's develop a marketing campaign so that every family knows that there's this opportunity. That's a viable strategy to get that out.
How is it done now? Sorry.
I think some families don't know about our sports because we used to be able to put banners at schools and stuff, but we're not allowed to anymore. So we don't even have a way to advertise the programs. So if there's a way to advertise the program and say scholarships available, more people will know.
So we could do that, right? If we're working with you as sponsors in groups, we could easily put it on the
Banners.
this freestanding banners that are out there, right? When we notify people of different events, the one on El Camino, and there's one at Live Oak and somewhere else. We can easily do that, saying it's scholarship time, sign up for red programs, ask us about labor, right?
So we actively promote scholarships. We have parents down in all the time that say, well, we don't have the money. Okay, you can still play, your child can still play. We do not refuse any child in ballot. We don't care. We do not refuse any kid.
There may be some families though, just to be sympathetic to the thing, who may not ask, right? And may feel uncomfortable asking for it. So if we just have it out in the community, there are scholarships available, they may feel more inclined to ask.
And we have, that's on our web, we actively advertise that we have scholarships. And everybody in our program, and everybody who runs our programs know we do scholarships,
That's great. You
okay?
just need to make sure everybody
And
gets that.
and in discussions with some of the people, based off of our last meeting, when you said you wanted the city to start taking it over. They said they will not work with the city. They said they will work with us. Because they have history, but they're not gonna go to the city and do it.
Okay, so that actually takes us to down here, because if it's gonna go to you all, the biggest criticism we heard was the process didn't work. Right, that it was cumbersome, the form was wasn't clear enough, that it took too long. So if we're going to do that process and getting the money to you guys, then we need to spend the time working on the structure,
Makes
the application.
So that. In itself. Is between the organizations and the city. That's not with the people signing up for scholarships.
No, and that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
so it becomes a grant for scholarships, but we have to have. You fill out an application saying you want X amount of dollars, and we have to have a form, and we have to have all the different information so that we can validate, because it's given public funds, right? So we have to have all of those assurances of who's the money going to, how it's been getting receipts, all that kind of stuff, and we have to have a form to fill out.
Okay, but your limits are too low,
$500.
it's 200, I believe, and then it's gotta go to a special.
Right, anything,
Review.
anything over $500 has to go to the Parks and Rec Commission for review. I think our suggestion in the last one was $2,500.
And that was my suggestion 2 years ago at the Parks and Rec meeting, that they increase that fee
You're really.
to $2,500. Because nobody charged, I mean, you have two scholarships, you spent $500. Okay, softball, we average 10 to 15 scholarships. Soccer, we average 10 to 15 scholarships. We're charging $165. 10 scholarships. It's well over the 500. So people were saying that it's too much of a hassle to have to go down and fill out this form, fill out that form. When you increase it to $2,500, you can definitely take care and streamline the process.
Still have to have a form, but we wouldn't.
A form's no big deal, but it's not going through 15 reviews. That's part of the problem, it has to go, after $500, it's got multiple reviews and approvals it has to go through.
And that's what we heard, right? So that's
Get
what,
rid of all the
that's what we wanted to have
multiple
this discussion about.
and
how to
layers.
streamline it. And so when we sent it out to you, we gave you the QR code with the form that we have revised, so it's just a drop down menus, you're just filling it in. And that's what we want to get feedback. I don't know, do you have that access to it, Dan? What, to the form?
So it's on the drop down form online.
But that was for the individual parents.
I think the purpose would be like, I can send that to you,
And you would fill
and
it out
you could fill it out. And if
For that child,
for the group,
For that group,
whoever you want to have scholarships for. If you wanted 10 scholarships, you would say, you want 10 scholarships.
I think the sample they saw was more on the grant equipment side, but you could make it where it's, let's do.
that
this is a
would be
scholarship.
wonderful.
Here's my name of my student, and here's how much for each
Here's my
student.
receipts.
Yeah, no, that would be fun.
Yeah.
And scholarships would, how
It
would
would
you,
make it,
you would have a receipt for those.
right, it would just be attached with.
It would be attached with our forms that we submit to you already. Based off of
Right.
our
This
participants.
would just be cleaner, because it's a drop down form, everybody's typed in.
Wonderful.
And that would then support the rosters that you
Yeah.
submitted to me, I
Yeah.
was roster.
You need cross references, well,
We would have to have some kind of receipt that identified who got the scholarship.
well, we would give you, it would be based off of our rosters. Because we,
Like,
Well,
we have an
not everybody's
application.
gonna get a scholarship, so you're designating
So on
who's
their-
getting scholarship.
no,
Like, you have an application, they come fill out with us and they provide,
Right.
so you would ask.
So on some of the rosters,
Otherwise, anyone can swap with
I'm
their
just-
scholarship, you have that sort of proof of need, and so we have that application.
and on some of the rosters that I get in the groups, it's identified who receives scholarships.
Right.
So we just accepted that unless we wanted to look at it.
So we should be standardized with everybody.
Right.
And so that we're consistent with everybody. So
Okay.
that would be.
so we can standardize a pull down, maybe that'd be great.
Yeah, and that's,
And increase the
that's the
fee,
showing those
2,500.
documents is to try and say. You don't have, we don't wanna have, part of it, honestly, sometimes we can't read people's handwriting. So that is part of the
You
problem.
run into that.
I mean, yeah, but you say handwriting, but why would the form be on someone's phone or
So
something?
that's what we showed the last meeting,
Right,
that's what we were proposing,
okay, good.
previously it was handwritten. Right, up until now, they've been handwritten, we were proposing, no, let's put it in an online form.
And everything that everybody's talking about right now, is there an SOP for all this, standard operating procedure you guys have written, so you can look at this and say,
It's
okay.
changing as we speak.
That's what we're doing,
Exactly, that's
we're writing a new one,
I'm sorry.
There
we're
is,
writing a new one right now.
I'm asking,
Within process.
because then you can, what Mike was talking about, put change whatever that thing says, 2,500, drop
The
down.
application that we've had is super old and archaic, and it
Okay.
just doesn't work for everybody's.
Well, no, it's funny, we're in Silicon Valley, the heart of Silicon Valley, and we're still handwriting stuff.
Exactly,
and so,
so.
I don't know. So what we had proposed is that we would have, because some people do like hard copies, so we had a hard copy form, and then we had it on our phones.
Okay,
Right, so that people could just fill it out on their phone.
because you're talking about streamlining that, that's the whole definition.
Right, exactly. So that was what we were
We could
proposing.
see other languages too.
There you go.
So we-
Yeah.
That's true.
We went completely electronic on sports agent. They fill it out on sports agent. You download it, review it.
So the concept of having an online form, we're accepting support. For.
Yes. Which,
for your-
Or
the
reimbursement.
first point though, is it in multiple languages or is it just in English?
We are in phase one, we will add that to the
Okay,
Actually, I think-
prototype.
I know there's a lot of
I think
parents
should
that,
like at the bottom, I don't know, I mean, Terry had put a clip that was translated on.
I think we can have the form translated in there and see.
I mean, not everybody all at once, but maybe there's 2 or 3 that might say, we'll start with this. You know, yeah.
So it's a reimbursement for scholarships. That's gonna go electronic online. Not me as a parent. Going online to the city and filling out my form. Okay,
No,
I
it's
just
the
wanted to be clear, because I was
only
hearing
now
quote.
for reimbursement.
The scholarship to the individual will be still on my program,
That's what we're here, that's what.
right? And then we submit electronically to the city. And we're gonna increase the fee to 2,500.
The scholarship.
The scholarship. The scholarship monies will be increased to 2,500.
as an administrative review.
It's proposed, right? That's what we heard. It sounds good.
So the limit of having to go to Park and Rec
Right.
would be increased to 2,500.
Right.
Below that would be at the discretion of the director. Right, so the staff would approve anything under 2,500. If it was over 2,500, then it has
Then
to
it
go.
goes to the next level. Yeah, right. We're on the same page.
Just because you're doing the SOP, and I'm really big on that, so in that part, will there be a procedure that says that if it goes to the director, you'll be back in 72 hours, or is it 2 weeks, 5 weeks?
So I would not commit to 72 hours, and I want the new director to stay, but we can say, we can establish a time period, right, so.
I
Let's
think it
talk
should
about
be a
what's reasonable.
full time period to.
Yeah,
know when
we
to
can say that
do
we can talk about how to establish a time.
Okay, thank you.
And it may not be a decision, right? Because sometimes we get things that don't make sense, right? And so it may be, you will hear back, we'll acknowledge receipt and you'll hear back.
That's fine,
But we can do
that's perfect, at least you know somebody's working on it. Yep, thank you.
Two things, what is your plan in time? Just so you mentioned the time for the 2:30.
Oh, for today? Yes.
Alright, cause I gotta be now, but second of all, we do have a meeting.
Oh, I really feel sorry for you.
It's gonna be
Now
hot
I
in
gotta go
here.
to football practice.
I've got one
I
Republic.
wanna tell you, if you have a native Santa Clara resident who grew up here, who loves everything, has done real well in video, who's been meeting with Lisa about the city. And I think if I mentioned somebody else, you'd be willing to let loose some of the video money, which is just been populating like crazy. So we do have answers there.
But that's why I asked that,
We have
because.
corporations that are looking for
Yeah.
places to help, and yet we're going, not us.
So
Oh, yeah.
let me step back a little bit on that, because we do have a program for sponsorship of rec programs, right? So we get people for wine, we do the Halloween thing, we do the. If we wanted to do that, we could establish, and we do have a general scholarship fund, and we could do an earmark fund. The difference is the tax benefit to them is different
They're
giving
not
to a
really-
city than it would be to a nonprofit, and that's why the foundation was so important. But we go and ask people all the time for.
But in video, $1 billion, if they give away 25,000, I don't think they're looking for.
3.2 trillion, there are 482
Okay,
trillion, greater
so-
science in the 90s.
But I don't think they're too worried, like 25,000 for the tax break on, you know,
Just random.
I think we have to open up.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's,
We. Kim's group did a really good job this year of increasing the sponsorships for the art and wine. So we're very conscious of trying to get outside money to support the programs. Just so you know that the money that came in from Bay FC using over the youth soccer park is going into improving that site. So for example, we just signed off on a new ice machine that's out there. So everybody, we got a ton of equipment that's out there, Chuck mentioned bowls. So we got a bunch of bowls, we got a bunch of clinics. So they gave 3 clinics for the youth. They did some player appearances, they did a story time at the library. Those are all corporate contributions to make the programs better for the youth. So we're actively trying to.
I just think there could be more, with all the companies here, there could be much more.
Santa Clara, for whatever reason, has not had a track record.
It's just not important enough. And I think if we push away, we get some response, and it's looking people asking. And like my friend said, hey, we're gonna need help, we were sent everybody's company. And he's met twice now, 3 times at least, so it's just, it's.
So we're happy to be with the team.
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
Do we need to talk about grants and eligible expenses for grants?
So what I heard was that the money is gonna go to scholarships.
Okay, so no grants for for equipment expenses.
No, I thought it was scholarship first, grant second, and no facility fees.
That's what I
Okay,
heard.
so
That's
then
what I heard.
but if it's only $30,000 and everybody's getting money. We're making to be eligible for grants, you have to have leftover money.
Right.
Which is saying that you are not gonna give away $30,000 for the scholarships. And I gotta believe that you're gonna give away $1,000.
You want to, but if you have, let's say you only have 25, let's say you only have 25,000, you have 30 available, then you would have 5,000 left over for grants. I think what Mike was saying is, you start with the scholarship, if there's money left over, it's not used, then it can be used for grants.
So then, so let's talk about. We've exhausted everybody's scholarship, money, and everybody's done whatever we need, and there is leftover money. Should we do that separately? And so everybody can talk about, well, then, now is an opportunity for us to do.
Angela had a great number, having 20 to 30 buffer. Is a great range for us to have, so if you bleed over 1 year, fine, but I don't think we should run it so close that we're gonna be that concerned. So I think she has.
Historically, we paid out, correct, about $8,000 a year in scholarships. And we take in like 15,000 each,
For your group specifically?
no, just all in general,
Yes.
It's not.
it's more than that, we take in more than that.
Yes, we take,
How much do we pay out in scholarships?
I would say we're bringing in about 30,000, we're maybe putting out about 10 in scholarships, because nobody.
So you're looking at 10 and 20 to make the 30, I mean, if you just walk.
But then again, that's.
So if scholarships go up to 15,000, then you just adjust and give out 15 for grants.
Yep.
So the onus will be on you all to apply for the scholarships, right?
Absolutely.
Because the
It
reason
still
we
is.
got more scholarships now is because that's not West Virginia.
If and I keep referring to Powell because I'm the executive board president, if we have a bumper crop year, let's say. And I give out 20 scholarships, but I made an extra 40,000 this year for whatever reason. I'm not gonna ask for 20 scholarships back, I'm gonna say, let the other people use it that need it. I mean, that's just good citizenship to me.
Stewardship.
Common sense, right? If I don't need the money, I'm not gonna ask.
How about if you had an upper limit that when it goes above a certain limit, then it would be available for the fees then?
Yeah,
For the fees or for the.
You know,
So
so that
that's-
way you're never endangering the scholarships. Only when there's excess up to, of a certain.
so setting the limits and the parameters would be perfect, because then everybody knows. Hey, once we get to this point, we can then give out grants. Never be doing all,
Grants and
So how do
and if you use it all up on scholarships, then no grants.
But how do you decide the grant? So now you use 20 out of 30,000, there's 5 grants that come in for 3,000 each, okay, you don't have that, so. Is there a committee that looks at that, or who decides on those grants?
so historically, they've come in together, right? They've
Yeah.
submitted a grant for both scholarships and equipment,
Parks and Rec Department.
right? Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying though, so is it first in, first out with FIFO, so is that how we do it?
And that was gonna be my question too, because we have different sports that come in at different times of the year.
Yes.
Right.
So how do you make sure that there's some money for the people who come in the spring, right? So that's where I'm saying that if the intent is to really give out the $30,000 in scholarships for the full year, maybe whatever's not spent gets carried over the next year, and that is a one-time pot that everybody applies for just equipment.
So it's not use it or lose it, you can't
So-
carry it over, is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it goes.
I wasn't sure if you're use it or lose it, so.
So what you're saying is, we had $10,000 left over from the 30. We gave out 20,000 in scholarship. The 10,000 would roll over to the 2025 year. And those would be for grants, and you would tell everybody to submit up to it, that you tell. There's basically 7 youth nonprofit groups in the city. You would say, everybody gets to submit $1,500.
Or you would put a dollar on that, you would put in, that we could tell them, we've got $10,000 left.
But that's what I'm just saying, how do you know how to give it out, who's,
So then so my suggestion would be that we look at something that, like the Park and Rec Commission, that's their job, is to review Park and Rec programs, and maybe they're the awarding body, right? So everybody submits an application. They submit a proposal, and then it goes to the Park and Rec, just like anything over 2,500 goes to Park and Rec.
Yeah,
Parker back might come back, everybody that's 2,500, let's say, you only have 2,000 on all these, we wanna help all 4 of you, and but you get 2,000.
and they do that, that's within their pretty,
Yeah, sounds good.
you know, you submitted 25, but. We wanna give it out to 7 different groups, so you only get 15,
Yeah.
and everybody gets 15.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
The day after your city council person, you be a Parks and Rec Commission.
So what I'm hearing is that we will assume a $30,000 allocation per year based on the travel, because that's pretty much
based on history.
based on the stream for the first year. If there's any money left after that first year, and then it'll all go to scholarships. if there's any money left, whatever money's left gets carried over the next year specifically for grants, not scholarships. So there'll be $30,000 again for scholarships and whatever was carried over the prior year for grants.
Okay, just ask
Yes.
Facility fees, no.
No, it's like-
no
No
facility.
facilities. I heard that from everybody first.
What happens though if your scholarships go up? So we're gonna do this great thing in the city, we're gonna promote it, we're gonna market it, and in the next year, you have more scholarships that are needed.
That's I'll figure it out.
Well, no, I'm just saying, so I just for the extra 10,000 will be grants is what I heard.
Well, we typically historically taken 30,000 a year and historically pay out 8,000 a year for scholarships. So we have a huge.
I was just saying, you have the grants, you said the next 10,000 grants, I'm just saying, hey, what happens? if it's-
No, there's a huge buffer right now, in my opinion.
Okay,
I think they're just worried more of the advertising won't come in, and maybe we'll have $40,000 in scholarships, but only 30 that count.
I think we'll get more players, I think more people, not more advertising.
well, I think so as well, that's why I was saying though, but there was a comment, that you only use it for grant, I'm just saying, hey,
Any leftover.
okay. I'm just saying, if you use 20 this year and then 30, like 10, you're saying grants, so what happens next year? All of a sudden, we have more kids that want to. So
More money comes in, and maybe more, next year you don't offer grants, maybe
Right,
next
so-
year
Yeah.
you're just
Oh,
offering
you-
scholarship, because you've given it all away in scholarships. So grant perhaps isn't offered every year.
And it's
Good point.
So that goes back to the annual review of that
Mhm.
program, right? So you'll be able to say, okay, this is what we got for this year,
Mhm.
this is the request that we've gotten.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the fees that are paid into it, but nobody else.
Is that, I'm pretty sure most organizations are increasing their registration fees. For a number of reasons. It's just, it's the economy, everything's going up. So,
Okay, so. Yeah. Okay, so. I was gonna ask for the three volunteers to serve on smaller, but I think we have enough to draft it based on what you guys have given us, to bring you back something like 20. For the full group to review, so we'll do that. And then you're gonna. So then what I wanted to spend the remainder of the time, is planning for the next week, right? Because what the other half of what the council referred to as is to look at the needs. And so, you want to understand from this group, what information would you need to have that discussion around fees? It's the first question. And then, what are your primary concerns around the fees, right? And then, should the city fees be aligned with school district fees? So that everybody, there's no difference between those. And if there's no fees, how do we pay for scholarships? How do we pay for the staff that's here at the facilities to help coordinate, open up and close, and pay for the maintenance? Right, so that's where your fees go, right, is to support those things. So if we're not gonna propose any fees, which is what I heard from the last meeting we're at now, you're gonna supplement these fee areas. So the alternative is, let's talk about fees and what's a reasonable fee, right? And so that was part of, we went to 14. We should probably not have gone to 14, we should have done something that the school district did in terms of implementing a staggered, 25% increase there, then 50% to get to 100% over a number of years. But we have to have fees, otherwise you're not gonna have, your way Brummal is gonna be zero, because you're not collecting anything. And then,
those fees from the way Brummal
Yes.
are funded for the scholar, I don't think your park usage fees fund the way Brummal. The way Brummal is funded by the $25 per non-resident.
It is just, Santa Clara Youth Sports user groups that use Santa Clara, City of Santa Clara fields. The only exception to that used to be school district field at Washington and Howard Johnson, those are no longer.
So you're not funding scholarships with our park usage fees.
okay, so I was on, but still the other two things.
A staff for oversight and coordination. It's currently been going on, it's been going on for years, and we're gonna streamline it and go electronic.
No,
So
that's,
your oversight should be less.
no, what your fees go to is to making sure that somebody's here every day. That somebody answers the phone every day. It goes to funding our general staff needs to support the sports program.
Facility rental
Totally
fees.
General fund and not even Parks and Rec fund,
That is, we are general. That's where we get our money from.
right, if they're.
Your fees go into the general fund.
Facility
There is
rental
no-
fees, facility rental fees, right? You're not talking about Wade Brummal anymore, right? We've moved on, yeah, okay.
That's how we get our money. So all of us are funded through the general fund. So their fees go into the general fund that then pays the salaries and for the staffing and the maintenance for the parks people, for the recreation people. So if there's no fees coming in, then you're not gonna have that, and we're gonna have lower levels of maintenance because there's no general fund money, right? I mean, the city's, that's part of our problem. And part of the reason going out for a bond is because we've not invested in maintenance and those kinds of things. So now we're gonna have to replace things, and now it's gonna be, we're 60 years into facilities and we have no money. We have to have a strategy that will say on an ongoing basis, we're gonna cover some of our costs, right? Your fees that you pay go towards paying what we currently are providing. So without
So
any
we're
fees,
talking about $150,000 a year. I think we need to go back to this foundation idea, because I would be shocked if we could get that amount of money up to there for Nvidia's, earthquakes and whoever. I think that's how those fees get covered. We need to have.
but on an interim, so what do we do until then, right?
What are the costs? We talked about a question.
It's $150,000.
No, that's what we pay, but it says discuss the fees and background information. So what is the cost to do this? Is $115,000 cover 100% of the
No.
costs?
No way.
Not at
No.
all.
Okay, well, I understand that, but that's why I'm asking.
Cost recovery rate for new sports, and we've got,
Salaries and the-
we can get you that.
Well, it's not just for
It's-
fees.
When they did the study, they said Parks and Rec, I think it was 12%. Was it 12%?
12%, yeah,
12% of what's paid of our costs are covered.
with fees.
With fees, right, 12%, so that means the city's already subsidizing at 82% or 88%.
You're right.
Don't ask me
Yeah.
that.
So what I think a lot of us, most of the groups I deal with have no problem paying the fee, you know, we understand there's a cost of doing business, we appreciate everyone in this room and. But what I think somehow, I'm not sure what happened, but we lost the tier status.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were the people he would look to, and I think partly because we had a tier one.
Prioritization of allocation.
Was I think a lot of people who had that were just looking at it and not using it. Okay, you would drive by fields and they'd be rented out to a group and they wouldn't be used, and I think that's wrong. So I would love to see where the SantaClara based programs would go back to that tier programs. And we do support our local program, but I think there has to be a cause effect. That if people reserve something, there's a fee, and not a fee, a penalty. If you lock up a field and don't use it, you're gonna pay.
So if the fee for field use is $14 and applies to everybody, which is what it does. If we had a nonprofit youth organization rate that was lower, is that something the groups would support? What's lower?
Oh, I think the $14, I'm not worried, the $14 fee to me, some people might, I'm like, that's relative to other cities. And other things, I'm like,
It's not.
it's pretty good.
What we have, yeah, I get it.
No,
What I said
it's,
don't have the. Right.
what,
Well, in baseball, I see sometimes it happens to Central Park and they don't take care of the fields, they have to do after stuff. We are very, with soccer, we're in
are
baseball.
you saying you have a good, relative to other cities, or? No, that's good.
So there's multiple sports in the room here, that's the problem.
So what we could do is say for rectangular fields, there's a fee and a nonprofit rate. And for diamond fields, for like, it's just define baseball and softball, there's a separate one. We could do that approach.
Well, I'm close by to this, because I live real close by, and I see these guys working their tail off, taking care of the fields. And
Not something we.
no, and that's where I do understand what baseball and softball have to go through, and again, that's a whole different.
And we pay the same fees.
Correct.
For Weston.
There's some cities have a different fee for turf fields, and I'm not shooting our babies later, but I'm like, this is nice. $14 an hour for this is impressive. If it helps our nonprofits get a little bit better priority and helps the city get revenue, I think adjusting for that turf field makes sense.
So what you guys don't see is actual maintenance of this field too. There's multiple things that happen. When you guys get here, it's nice and clean and taken care of. There is staff over here, as well as you will see that we actually did a whole revamping of the field where a lot of places were already kind of falling apart. We do our best to make sure that you guys don't see it, but there's still things that go on in the background. And that goes for Central Park also, that goes for all the facilities, so that way you're able to see a really good product, a really safe product that's maintained for all the kids and the patients.
So maybe we do this, so if we do the turf field fee, a synthetic turf fee. In the case of Little Leagues, you're in a little bit of a different situation, because you guys do a lot of work there, and we know we're gonna enter into an MOU, right? Maybe we say, for your fee, we're going to go back and do a staggered implementation to get to the 14, to make it easy for you guys. Until we can work out the MOU where you would get credit for the work that you would do.
That's the conversation these guys have.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with two different field issues. I'm grateful that they signed that this.
That's good.
Some of this,
So what would work in your case, Linda, just no fees? That doesn't,
I'm telling you, if we had that foundation, it would cover,
but in the interim, we don't have the foundation.
okay, so we're gonna not, we're gonna, I mean, we can get that together decently fast, I would think, so. We can get checks for it pretty fast.
I think what was hard to swallow, is we went from 0 fees to 14, there was no in between, they didn't do any sort of stack.
Well, and the prioritization changed at the same time.
So we have, Merlin and I and Kim and staff have done some benchmarking with other cities, we've gone back, we really want to go back to the prioritization of. You know, the nonprofits are number one, there's Santa Clara residents that the groups are serving, and then go down the tier from there. But there still has to be some sort of fee associated with that, so whether the nonprofits are $4 an hour instead of 14, and then we do have some adult nonprofits that are in there that aren't even captured in our current pricing system. Or do they fall into the grouping and the pricing? So we have some information, we're just not quite all the way there yet, because we wanna get through. You know.
I understand, it's a better, you're finding out, you guys are looking at, but I think having a meeting today with a few people in the room, you're getting good feedback. We wanna work with you, we understand we have to pay our fees, but I really, and I'll say until anybody can tell how great Santa Clara is, okay? I've been fortunate to be here my whole life, so I understand how great we have it. Other cities don't, but I wanna get back to that. There's a group here that's got us on that, you already know who they are. So I just wanna make sure you know that we're on board with you, we wanna work with you. We just gotta make sure that all groups are represented.
And to your point earlier about once fees are established, people were held accountable to being on the
Yeah.
grid. That we went down by 95%. So that is really not an issue anymore. There
That was
are
fine, we did have a fee, when people got
Yeah.
shot, it just gave me.
Yes.
you're not skin the game, you don't care about that.
Right.
Exactly, and it allowed us to get other groups in here, because our directive when this facility opened was to make revenue. So when the nonprofits are not here, we have these other groups that are coming in, we have North Valley Baptist, but it's a little, nugget of time before the 4:30. So we do our best to try to bring in other groups that are gonna hit Hartford. They were using Washington baseball field, paying top dollar, they paid into the Brummal fund, so they were thankful for the facility and great for the staffing, and it was a win-win for both, and they didn't have a home baseball field, we provided for it. But having those fees associated and that, all of that, it just made it,
Right.
clear.
But it should be staggered. I asked before about the cost. You guys kind of laughed at that. The cost that you spend to do the one baseball field, mowing the lawn can't be the same cost it is out of your best. Now, you might allocate it that way, but there's no way. We do so much, and I know, because I've been coaching and been volunteering to get those fields ready before and after the game. The only thing that's mowing, there might have been some dirt that they did for us. So the cost for that one field, we have to have some standard, or
We do.
even,
We do,
I mean, but it's this much probably compared to what you're paying here.
Which field in particular are you talking about?
They're talking about Earl Carmichael.
Okay.
That's the only
They have
field,
one.
other fields that we use are, those being for the school, going up like.
And that's why I was saying earlier.
No,
they're
Mike
in a
has
little bit
spot
of a
shields.
situation, So we can have an MOU, right? We don't have an MOU, everybody else is permitted.
Okay.
But they want credit for the volunteer work that they
Right.
put in, and we're willing to talk about that.
No, I think we need to, when I asked what the cost, I would love to find out the cost of spending. Whatever allocation was your percentage or some percentage that goes to that, but there's. That's why holding off on those fees on those fields might make sense, because there's so little being done. And even with the school district, where we're paying high fees now, we're not doing anything, we're doing a lot of work. That's a separate subject, we're not gonna bring up here, but we're talking about the fees here. We do have to look at what the costs are, maybe do a percentage based on them.
And I'm totally willing to do that, but just keep in mind that until we have an agreement, they shouldn't be doing any of that, right? They shouldn't be doing any of the volunteer stuff, because that's a liability for the city. That's why it's really important for us to have an MOU.
So what is our thing on that?
Yeah, all these years, yeah, we shouldn't have been doing it, right? And so that's why we wanted to.
Who would have paid for this if the volunteers weren't doing it for
Exactly,
free?
and that's why I'm saying.
It doesn't get done.
It
does-
You know what it would look like? It was like half of the fenced in areas on El Camino, it would look like.
Dollar amount. Or volunteer.
We need to take a look at that and get some timelines on
Well,
what we need.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to negotiate an agreement so that it's clear. So Linda, you know that one of the outstanding issues is the building at Carly, right? The building is on both school district and on city property.
Correct.
There's no MOU about that. So from a liability standpoint, there's huge liability about how they operate on that facility. We need to write that down.
Okay, so have you given dates and when you say we need, are there timelines that you've given?
School district is not.
So I'm trying to understand, if to try and get one place, we have to have 2 or 3 parties discussing, and they don't want to discuss, so
Well,
you're
but
asking.
that's not the, so I did send Linda an email saying that I met with the school district earlier this week.
Okay,
They have agreed to that a 3-way MOU is necessary.
I do not have any.
You do, I sent it to you. Check your email.
so let's double check and
It was.
You were probably traveling, probably.
But I just.
but it'd be nice to understand some timelines on what,
I agree.
you know, it's easy to say we need this and this. Give some dates and some timelines, and then you hit those timelines and those milestones, and then you manage it.
But I agree with you, but I can only do what I can do on my end, right? I've committed to Linda that I would talk to the school district, I did that.
Okay.
They had kept the meeting short, we're gonna reschedule the meeting, until I can schedule that meeting, I can't do it, but I at least got them to agree, yes, we need to have an MOU.
So can we get a timeline saying, here's when the meeting's gonna be, here's when we need to have the information back, because anybody has deadlines and timelines you can follow and make sure that things are being done constructively. To hit those dates and timelines, rather than saying, you don't have this, we can't have volunteers, we have fall down now. We're just signing up for spring coming up right now, that's right around the corner, if you can start going, that starts up.
So just to be clear, I didn't tell them they had to stop. I said there's liability around not having it, right? And so until and that's why there's an urgency on my part, because I don't want that liability.
I agree, I'm just saying, let's get some timelines so we know and we can make sure we get those liabilities and the. You know, what may happen on this, completed as soon as possible. Because we have our spring coming up right around the corner. If we don't get this resolved right now, we're gonna have issues again next year. And it's important. Youth sports are so essential.
Great. Okay, so that's what I wanted to. Yeah.
So does the group
Was
want to
there
have
anything
the,
else?
sorry, I was just clarifying, if the group wanted to have the prioritization along with the fee conversation, we're doing it January, okay.
It's
So
too many items.
prioritization tier system again, along with fees on the
That's-
24th.
What she's referring to is the allocation of fields prioritization, how we're gonna allocate fields, that's a definite. We need to get the fee issue resolved first before we start talking about how we're allocating. fields.
So the fee is the levels of fees for the different groups. That's what's coming
That
back
prioritization
in
will be-
October,
but not
later in the month.
allocation. It's like, who's gonna get what fields on.
And you can increase fees every 2 years, right?
We can increase it every year if we wanted to, but we generally don't want to because it's gonna do on the operating budget.
We can change it on the fiscal year.
We could, technically, you could do it at any point in the year, provided it has public hearing, it goes to council, they can change it. Our practice is only to do it during the budget cycle, right? And so our operating budget cycle is every other year for operating. But even when we have the off year when it's capital, we could, if council chose to, make the adjustments of those years as well.
But we have not.
But we have
asked for these fees, they've always stayed. Well, we haven't.
It just makes it easier to do it on a 2 year cycle, so everybody's got some stability.
Fees.
Okay, so is there any other information that you want, the cost recovery rate, the expense, not for fields, I heard those 2 things. Is there any other things that you want for the meeting on the 23rd? 24th.
Like, I can get forth. You have a question there, should city fees align with district fees? No. In no way, shape or form. 2 separate entities.
As long
And
as,
they are not,
but it's,
they could give a crap less about what is sports they put out of business. Because they're just gonna keep charging the fees.
If we even have fields on.
So that answers that question.
Being sure.
Sure is. Got her out here.
I think we all agree.
Trust me, they're,
The silicon can destroy kids just going and playing sports. Like a kid can't go to a field and not just play,
nope,
it's impossible. And the districts and schools that ruin all of that.
totally clueless.
That is.
That's
They
sad.
block every field up for kids.
We even tried one year on a Sunday with my son who was starting to play, and I said, oh, these fields are beautiful, closed on Sunday. Yeah.
Well, these are our
Still on, but.
These are our fields. This is
I know,
us.
I know, well, I'm just saying you were talking about kids using fields, I'm just throwing that out, that that's something we won't talk about here.
Yes, that.
We'll talk about it another time, but it would be great to have other kids being able to come out here.
There's open places.
we do have drop-in program on Thursday, Tuesday evenings, Friday evenings, and on Sundays from 11 to 2 p.m.
So
You're
like,
able to use the facility if you get a pass from the app for the kids and one for yourself through our activity pass program.
you said there's a cost for kids to get that pass.
There is no cost if they're the city's Santa Clara
It's
residents.
small.
And you,
If they
That's
have.
the drop-in system, right?
Yes.
They have, they used to call it yak card, but they call it.
The youth resident card,
Okay,
$30 a year, gets you into the youth activity center for free, recreation for free, swim for free, and drop in here for free, and skate
so
club.
are there things for kids that can't afford that?
Yes.
There is, okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah, and then you have to
I'm
pay
asking
for your
questions,
card,
I was asking one.
yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
And it's been, we've had the drop in for probably a couple of years now, and just in the last year, that is finally started to come in and tying it into the youth card has made it more youth eligible to come and play.
I wasn't aware, I came during that time, there was nobody there, so.
so after 2 p.m. we are closed. If there's no program, we are closed after that.
Okay, that's it, is that because you don't have people operated? Or-
Yes, so we have the minimum amount of staff right now, we try our best to make sure we're staffed up. But right now, we Sunday afternoon, we are closed down, but we do offer that drop in from 11 to 2.
Okay, I may reach out and see how we can work together.
Yeah, sure, so.
I came after you, so.
Yeah. To be fair, then this is let you know, it says 2
And
p.m.
we only added the Sundays probably a year ago. Before Sunday.
No, Most kids that aren't, a lot of kids playing sports or they have school, they have home, so it's very difficult and dinner and everything else to come during the weekday. So if you open it more on a Sunday and you come with your dad, your mom, your grandparents, whoever it may be, and you have it from 2 to 6, that's
Part of
great,
it-
it's not a house.
Right, part of the 11 to 2 was we had another group renting a field, so it
Okay.
allowed that rental fee to cover the cost of us opening and staffing it during that time. So we're able to stay until 2. We don't currently have the additional 1 staff or budget to stay beyond that. But we're always looking, and the need just like there hasn't been a huge bunch of people coming in on Sunday.
It's been there
As
all
it
summer.
grows,
Okay.
that's the hope.
Yeah.
And again, it goes with this whole marketing we're talking about.
Yes.
People know that it's open and you're able to access it, and so again, that's probably my fault because I couldn't.
No, we want to have that, so that's a good thing.
All right, sorry for
That's
going off. Sorry.
Okay, anything else for the 24th?
Possible, can we get the agenda before the 24th? If possible.
If possible, I'd happy to do it, Mike, we're just really tight right now, but yes, if possible, we'll get to the.
Our time's over.
And is it possible to get a timeline on what happens after the 24th, then when you're trying to go to council and then?
Yeah, once we have the input from the group, yes. We will, I can tell you what the steps are, what facility.
Start out, not where you from. So.
Not youth program?
So the next step would be the taking it back to the Parks and Rec
Yes,
Commission first,
yes,
getting their buy-in and input,
and then take it into council,
making those adjustments, and then going to council.
Yeah.
After that meeting.
that's the process,
So-
I just need to be a timer.
Knowing how things work, it'll probably be January.
It may likely be Joe.
That would be great.
January, February, yeah, I honestly,
Yeah, because there's no meeting in December,
Okay,
there's no meeting in December.
And I thought I heard you say they are youth service.
there's a few that aren't as friendly as they could be for youth sports, I'll just say that. I know, I've seen the votes, so I can tell.
I felt the votes. So I think they've spent some money, which has been in favor, and we're here because they gave us the referral to do that, so.
At a 7-0.
Yes, so it came down to push it to shove, they did vote for it.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Input.
thank you. Keep me on the phone.
It was a good conversation. It
Uh,
was a good conversation.
What?
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was, and like I told them all, honesty, you guys are fun. I'm totally pleased with that.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, you shouldn't be in the general fund, you should set your own fund.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
We'll see you later. I'm gonna do your other thing.
You guys didn't cancel practice?
Well, like yesterday, we went into the gym,
Oh, you went
we did
inside.
walkthroughs and stuff, then we went to the bathroom, watched film.
Yeah.
Then after 5:30, we went to tennis. Huh?
Yeah.
But you guys supposed to get more space and.
Oh, yeah, we've got it, they haven't officially turned it over, but we've got probably a year's worth of stuff that we.
They got a cold shell like we were supposed to get for the art center, so now they have to do the interior TIs. Yeah,
So we'll have that in probably a year.
but Mike is a coach, football coach for
So,
Wilcox.
So I got your bill, sports.
yeah.